Today we're back in Normandy Isle over here in Miami Beach, and for those of you guys who are regulars on my channel, you've probably seen me walk down this street a few times before. It's one of my favorite spots to come back to now and again because it's just beautiful, it's pretty quiet, got a little bit of everything, got some townhouses here, got the park behind me over there, and we got the neighborhood with the houses. And I'm going to bring you guys over by a house later on in this video showing you why people are making such bad decisions right now when it comes to real estate investing, because I found a house that sold last year and then they rented it, and I'm going to show you guys just how much this person is just getting beat up right now. And right away I see one for sale. So they have the sign up in the yard for this place, but I don't actually see the listing. It shows that it's off market, but here's one that's actually right next door or just a couple doors down, and they want almost 1.3 million for this place. And you can see just how far out of whack these prices are. Back in 2017, this place sold for $535. It's just nuts. But while we're walking over to this house, I'm going to share some interesting real estate stories with you guys, because this week Redfin has been touting how much mortgage payments have gone down and how much more affordable housing is, especially in areas that got overheated. And obviously the reason why they're doing this is they're a real estate company and they depend heavily on home sales for their revenue. And if they don't do this, these guys are going to be, basically going out of business, because we already know that their stock price is down, what, 90% over the past year, and their iBuyer program failed, just like everyone else's iBuyer program failed. And so basically they've made every mistake that a real estate company could make, so it's in their best interest right now to make it sound like it's still a good time to buy real estate. They're saying in San Francisco that mortgage payments have dropped 14.8% since October of 2022. So the average mortgage payment over there was about $99.73 a month, and now it's $84.96. Big whoop, guys. That's still completely out of the realm of reality for basically everyone, and for them to come out and celebrate this like it's a big deal is kind of a joke right now. Now, I'm not going to completely poo-poo this and say this is not great, because it is great, and it shows you that the housing market's starting to turn around, which is what we've been talking about forever here. It shows you that as prices come down and the mortgage rates have come down a little bit, it has improved affordability, but it's still just too high. That's really the bottom line. And also, they even say in their article here from Redfin that even though these payments are coming down, it's still much higher than it was a year ago when interest rates were 3.5%. And the average home sold for about $378,000. But of course, they're championing the fact that pending home sales went up 3% in December. And the reason why that's a big deal is because that's the first time pending home sales actually went up in 14 months, which was because of the lower interest rates. But, the real problem with this is that if everybody just smartened up and saw these trends happening, like people saw these videos about prices coming down and now interest rates coming down, if people saw this and recognized, like, hey, wait a minute, if this is happening already this much, this fast, maybe if I wait this out a little bit longer, I don't know, maybe I can get an even better deal. If more people would just think like that, you would be amazed how fast home prices would come down. But no. They got to think like the other guy that we talked about in Seattle that paid $1.4 million for a house that's worth like 750 grand now. So congratulations to that guy. You're stuck with that house forever, and you're going to be probably in debt for the rest of your life. I'm here to help. I'm here to teach you how not to do this. That's what we've been talking about. And I know that FOMO is a big problem here when it comes to this, because in Redfin's article, they said that in San Jose, California, pending home sales were up 21% more than any other metro. So obviously the Bay Area is one of the most expensive housing markets in the whole country, and having these payments come down by over $1,000 a month was enough to push some people over the edge and say, yeah, let's get in right now and buy. But this is just so stupid if you ask me, guys. The Bay Area is the hotspot for all the tech layoffs that have been happening, and they've just gotten started. You're guaranteed to see a lot more of them coming into 2023. But these people are all out there, you know, signing up to have $8,000, $9,000 a month mortgage payments because they were able to save $1,000 a month. I mean, have fun with that. That's all I got to say. And I'm telling you guys right now that these people are going to be wishing that they waited an extra year or two to buy these Bay Area homes. And if they did, they probably would have been able to get an even bigger discount and, you know, save so much more money. But everybody just has to have the house right now. No patience whatsoever. Now here we are, guys. You see this house right behind me here? This is the one I was telling you guys about a little bit earlier in the video. Back in June of 2022, they sold this house for $1.6 million. And what did we learn from the investor's advice of the video the other day? 1% of the purchase price is supposed to be the starting point to see if any type of property is a good investment, right? And I told you guys in that same video that investing in real estate in Miami right now is a terrible idea. This house is proof, okay? They paid $1.6 million, so they should be getting $16,000 a month in rent for this house at minimum, okay? Guess how much it's rented for? $7,500 a month, okay? Not even half of what it should be rented for. So you're talking 0.3, 0.4% of what they paid for this property. So this buyer, whoever bought this place as an investment, is probably losing money every month paying for this house, because when you spend 1.6 million, I would imagine that's pretty close to what your mortgage payment is, if not actually less. Let me pull up the mortgage calculator here. So I really don't see what the play is here, guys. The only thing that I think is really going on, based on all the listings that we see on all these walks, is that everybody thinks that the housing market here in Miami is going to appreciate so fast. There's all those parrots. These parrots are everywhere around here. They're probably banking on the fact that they think the housing market here is going to appreciate so fast, like it did back in those times, that in maybe a year or two from now, I'm going to be able to sell this place for double what I paid for it. And sorry to break it to you, but those days are over. People are trying to do that now, and it's not working. Anybody who thought they can do that right now has missed the boat. Now, if it's a long-term play and maybe they want to live in the house after like a couple years, you know, maybe it's a retirement home and they just wanted to buy it now before prices got higher and we're just trying to break even, maybe I could let that slide as like a, you know, a reasonable purchase, right? But for any other reason, if they bought this place for actually just a flat-out investment, it was a horrible one. And that's pretty much the story all around here. I mean, I used to be able to find deals left and right here, guys, and the problem was back then I didn't have the money to buy them. And now that I do have some money to buy them, there's no more deals to be found. So I'm being patient. I'm taking my own advice that I'm always talking about here in the videos, and I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait for the conditions to improve, because they certainly will. Now, one of the features that we have here as realtors in Florida is we have what's called the legal hotline. I don't know if you guys have this in other states, but one of our perks of being a Florida realtor is being able to call into the legal hotline here and get legal advice that you're not supposed to share with clients, but they're always writing all these articles about different scenarios and cases that they come up with. And turns out one of the most popular topics these days is home sellers not disclosing defects that the buyers are basically 100% sure that they knew about, but they have no way to prove it. And these situations go something like this. The buyer will purchase a house and after the purchase later discover there's some type of $15,000 repair, you know, something that they weren't aware of, right? And then do you think that they're saying to themselves, oh, maybe I just missed something, maybe my inspector missed something, no big deal, we'll take care of it? Fat chance, guys. First thing they're doing is hopping on the phone with a lawyer saying, how can I sue the seller of this house for not telling me about this? And when you sell a home, you have a home disclosure, okay? You have the seller's disclosure. Here in Florida, it's like a 4-page form that the seller is supposed to fill out, basically disclosing any known defects with the property. These are things like any type of roof leaks. Do you know anything about if the property holds water? Is there a sinkhole nearby? You know, have you had roof damage recently? Like pretty much anything. If you know of a problem with the property, you're supposed to disclose it on this form. And apparently, a lot of people are probably not doing this because real estate agents have been calling in using the legal hotline about 76,000 times a year, just asking about this one problem alone. Because what's probably happening is they sold a house and then the home buyer finds some sort of defect that wasn't in the seller's disclosure. They get pissed off, they call their real estate agent, start threatening them, whatever. The realtor calls the legal hotline to find out, you know, how should I handle this, or, you know, what's going on with this. And unfortunately, sometimes the real estate agents just get dragged into this because they were part of the transaction, when in fact, you know, there's really nothing that, you know, a real estate agent could have done if the seller didn't fill out the form properly, because this is a form that the seller fills out, not the real estate agent. There's really nothing that we can do about it, you know, and it's not our house. We don't own the place, so, you know, how are we supposed to know if the roof had a leak 5 years ago? You know what I mean? Unless the seller tells you, you don't know. But the lawyer who wrote this article says that if the buyer's so convinced that the seller knew about this, then it needs to be hashed out in court, unfortunately, and you got to be able to prove somehow that the seller knew about this. So I don't know how somebody would even go about doing that, but I'm sure, you know, it would be a long, lengthy process, just like our friend Mark had to go through with the insurance company, and probably isn't going to be worth it, especially for something like a $15,000 repair. You're likely going to spend way more time and headaches, not to mention, than 15 grand, you know, going through the legal process to try to get some money out of the seller from this. So this is not legal advice either, by the way, guys. This is just an example of what's happening. So if you ever need legal advice, you need to consult your own lawyer, because I am definitely not one and I'm not able to give any. But the moral of this story is, if you're a home seller selling a home, doesn't matter what state it's in, you're going to have the seller's disclosure. And if you know something about the house that the buyer should know about and you're hesitating whether or not you should tell them, that's a definite sign you should tell them, because if you don't, they might come back to bite you later on and they may end up suing you. So that's the last thing you really want to happen. So the name of the game is disclose, disclose, disclose. But one thing I wanted to share with you guys today that I think is interesting that we don't talk about enough is, you know, we talk about how much all these buyers have gotten screwed over with how much they overpaid for these properties, but we don't talk enough about how much these sellers got away with such a nice profit from all of this and were smart enough to sell at the right time and take their money. And turns out that in South Florida in 2022, the average profit from a home sale down here was about $159,000. That's a nice chunk of change. And just going from 2022 to 2021, that's a 51% increase in the profit that was made. So that just goes to show you how much more money you can make by selling the property at the right time to the greater fool who's willing to take it at the top of the market. And it's nice to know that not everybody was stupid, and some people were very smart and basically walked away with a record amount of cash. And not only that, are really smart. Some people did things like they bought RVs. You know, they completely sold the house, bought an RV, living cheaply right now, waiting for prices to come down, and then boom, swoop in when things are cheap and buy up again. And that's really the smart way to do it. It is difficult sometimes to time the market, but this is not the stock market, and you can never be sure 100% that it's 100% the bottom or 100% the top, but you can kind of get in the realm of, like, what I would say close enough. And anybody who sold in 2022, doesn't matter when in 2022, was definitely close enough, considering the peak was right in the middle of the year in June. And at least in South Florida, and probably in most of the country that saw price increases, this was the biggest gain and appreciation that we've seen since 2008, which was obviously when we had the last housing crash, and to me is also one of the biggest warning signs that this whole thing is coming down, and we're already seeing it happen. But you didn't have to be in South Florida to have a nice profit from selling last year. It turns out the national average was about $112,000, which is up 21% from 2021. So in general, anybody who sold their home last year, they did very nice for themselves and made a lot of money. And all I have to say to you guys is congratulations for being one of the smart ones and looking at the trends and realizing, hey, this is it. Let's give it to the greater fool. Using the greater fool theory, we'll take our winnings off the table right now and prepare for when things are cheaper. And I just think that is so smart, and want to congratulate anybody who saw that coming and took advantage of this. But one thing I will caution everybody about is that even if you think Florida is like this never-ending real estate casino and you can just buy real estate here, just like this place we just saw, well, obviously that didn't work out for that person very well when it comes to getting the place rented for the right amount, because $7,500 was what someone was willing to pay for that house, when in reality they paid $1.6 million. So according to the investor math, that person shouldn't have paid more than $750 grand for that house. So think about that. And in this report, they say that the profits have peaked, guys. So anybody who thinks that they're going to turn around and do this in 2023, you're not going to be seeing the same level of profits that people saw in 2022 now that prices are coming down. Even if you're here in Florida, you know, there's just not as many buyers out there. You're seeing all these listings that we walk by that have price cuts, and things are not selling nearly as fast as they used to. So getting that type of money for your home, it's not going to happen anymore. And we're about to walk by another house that proves that, because every time I come over here, I see this same house still for sale. It's probably been about a year right now. I can't remember, but it's been on the market for a really long time. This is it right here. Probably the third or fourth time we've walked past this house, still for sale. No one's buying it. Yep, look at that. They listed this house for sale last January for almost $2.2 million. They've cut the price down to $2 million since then, and they've even listed it for rent, and still no one's living in this house. It's literally been sitting here empty for a year because everything's overpriced. Now here's a doozy that no one saw coming. The jobs report came in far higher than what was expected. It came in with 517,000 new jobs added just in January, right? Which points to an extremely strong labor market. And Biden is patting himself on the back saying, well, look at everything I did. You know, I made the economy great again, and look how things are going. You know, we're not going to have a recession. Everything is perfect, right? And it was estimated that there were only going to be about 190,000 new jobs added. It far exceeded expectations of everybody that there were going to be this many. But here's a couple problems with this. Now, on the one hand, this is good that people do have employment opportunities. First of all, I'm not going to knock that. That's a great thing. It's better than everybody out of work and can't find a place to get a job, right? So that part of it is very good news. But the thing that, you know, they're celebrating too early on with this is the fact that the Fed, specifically Jerome Powell, this is bad news for them, right? Because that means that they're going to have to continue with their interest rate hikes, probably for longer and higher than they previously thought, in order to get unemployment where they need it to be. And when they're adding this many new jobs, it makes it harder for them to hit those unemployment goals. And it also makes it so people have more money, and it increases wage competition, because the more jobs there are, the more people have to pay in order to fulfill those positions. And when people have more money, what do? They spend more money. So this is kind of one of those things where good news is bad news, in terms of there's probably going to be more interest rate hikes coming than investors realize and most people think is going to happen right now, simply because the job market is still too hot. So until the Fed cools that off, you can pretty much guarantee they're just going to continue with these rate hikes until the recession becomes official. We got more of the flipping insanity right over here. They bought this house back in 2020 for $1.7 million, and now they're flipping it for $4.6 million. I have a feeling this house is going to be another one sitting on the market for a long time. And the other thing that's happening with the labor market, which I saw in a couple of YouTube videos the other day, is there are a lot of jobs out there, but there's a couple problems with the job. They're either jobs that people don't want, they don't pay enough, or the other problem is some of these jobs have positions that they can't fill because nobody has the skill for the job. Like, for example, there's a big shortage for people working in factories here in the US, which are basically manufacturing jobs, building different things that we make here, which is not much, but we do make things still. And the issue is a lot of people don't want those jobs because they see themselves being some kind of big shot CEO or programmer or whatever, something else besides that basically doesn't line up with their life goals in the future that they see for themselves, so they're not taking those jobs. And a lot of those jobs started around $30 an hour. And the other problem is, even if people want those jobs, they need to be trained, they need to have some sort of skills to have them. And you know, when you went to college to become a masseuse or whatever, you know, it doesn't really line up with the skill set that you need for a manufacturing job. So that's part of the problem as well. You have jobs that people don't want, and you have jobs that people can't actually take because they don't have the skills required to fill these jobs. And that's part of the reason we're seeing so many open positions right now. But when you look at this, you can't say, oh my God, I'm broke, you know, the recession's killing me, I can't make any money, because guess what, guys? There's opportunity out there still. It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to seize it and take that opportunity. Or if you think it's above you and you know, you're not willing to do that type of job, well, then I guess you can be broke and desperate, you know? Those are pretty much your choices right now. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you click the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I post a new video. And if you don't want to wait, check out my next one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.